Excellent. That looks like we have managed to go live, ladies and gentlemen. So let's just click on there. Cool. Make sure I've got that turned on. Aha. Let's just pick that up so we can pop that into its holder. And then let's just see what happens and who goes live. And then we'll remove those and we might be organised in a minute. Huh? Anyone would think I might have prepped. Good evening, Connie. Hello, Imre. Good evening, Georgina. I don't believe I've seen you watching one of my lives today. So thank you very much for choosing today to join the Pentart Lives. And please let me know from which country you're in. It would be lovely because we're a very international group. So let's just wait for a few more people to click through and come in. Oh, excuse me, that wasn't very elegant at all. I do apologise. Good evening, Juliana. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Gill. I'm one of Pentart's creative team. I have been for probably 4 years now, but I've used Pentart products for probably 10 years. So that's an awful long time to get practicing and playing with the products. I was asked by Pentart to give you a little quick introduction to the new products, and then we're going to make a project that isn't strictly wall decor. So let me just pop these 3 pieces out of the way for the time being, because otherwise we'll have a pickle. And I haven't got everything out because there are a huge number of products in this range, and they have all been called Pentacolor Wall Decor. Okay, so they have been developed so they're suitable for literally doing what it says, putting on your walls. But that doesn't mean that's the only thing you can do with them. They're, of course, suitable for many other applications. And the products generally come in 150ml pots, 500ml pots, and 1 litre pots, depending on the size that you might actually need for what you're playing with. So that's the sizes. And I think for most practical crafters, the 150ml pots will work for most things, with the exception of, I think, the loft spackle and the structure plaster, and for me, the crackling. So when you might be better off doing the bigger things. Let me just swap that around. Thank you, Sarah. There we are. Is that better, my darling? There we are. Let's just cover that over. Let's move that down to there. That might help a little bit. Get rid of that. So whenever you're working with products, let me just find them. You need to have primers. So there's a primer paint in white and black. There's a texture primer in white, a sparkling one in black, and a coarse one, depending on the effect you want, and a deep primer for going on cement-like surfaces that may not be so solid, to strengthen things up. And then we have what we might describe as texture products. So there are 3 texture products in the range. There is a structure plaster, which is a bit like cement. Yeah, like plaster you'd put on your wall. It does have a texture, but it's actually quite smooth rather than anything else. Then there is this stuff called loft spackle. So think your polyfiller maybe. And it's a really smooth, silky, almost slightly sticky material. But good for adding loft, so bounce and density to your mediums, and for you don't quite want as much texture as the structure razor. And then we have a crackling plaster primer and a cracking paste. And you think, do we really need another cracking paste in this range of products? Because Pentacolor do lots of cracking materials, as we know. But actually, this is different to the 3D cracking paste and any of the other crackle paste. So I do think it's a good addition to the overall product range. So I've got lots of products here. Let's get rid of that. And then there are lots of wall paints in lots of really yummy colours. And there's about 23 of these. And I've just got out some of them so you can see these are all ones I'm thinking about using tonight. So wall paints, lots and lots of different colours, and they're a really nice consistency. They don't drip, so they can be put on with a paintbrush or with a roller depending on what you want to do. I'll come back to those two. And then there are things called lasers, and these come as colours, antique colours, so your browns, your greys, and then some metallics. So these can be wiped over a surface if that's what you want to do. They can be lifted off with microfiber cloths or other things, or they can be used to pop into stuff and then wipe back the surface, so you build your depth and colours in the same way that many of you will have seen me using the antique gels on many occasions. So think a cross between the glazes that came out a couple of Christmases ago and the stroke antiquing gels, and you've got a good idea as to what you can do, but again in a range of lots of different colours. And these two are different. One is an antique, so it is matte, and one is pearlized, so shiny. So that covers the range of those. And finally, in the range, there are two powders. So there is this one, which almost feels a bit like talcum powder. This is called magnesia powder. I've no idea what's actually in it. I suspect not magnesium, because that's fairly inflammatory, and it's definitely not. And then there is this one, which is brocante powder, which is almost grainy. It looks very fine, but it definitely is grainy, and that can be mixed, used as it is and sprinkled on, or mixed with a glue to create like a thick textured paste that has a different feel to the texture paste. So let me, without more of ado, pop this lot on the floor. Oh, that wasn't quite, as you might imagine, quite what I intended doing, because throwing everything on the floor was not quite the intention. But hey ho! So how am I going to link this little lot to Stamperia Masquerade? Wow, I have a mask and I have a stencil. And we're going to have a little bit of a play with these two. And this is an 8-inch wooden board. It could be MDF, it could be a box surface, it really could be lots of different things. And the first thing, which will come as no surprise, I think, is that we are going to add some primer paint to this. So one over, good. So let me just acknowledge everyone who's in. Hi, Helen. Thank you for joining us this evening. Good evening, Sandy. Hello, Ari. Thank you. Good evening, Blanche. Good evening, Stephanie. Are we going to update on that system? Probably. Okay. So I have this wooden board. Wood is a porous surface, and I want to seal this. It's a real pain when Facebook does that, but actually Pentart have no control over that. It's very much a question of what Facebook decides to do. So this is literally just a primer paint. It's going to seal that surface. I'm choosing white because I'm wanting to work with paler colours, although they're not going to be very pale. I think they're going to work better over a slightly white surface, and that's just going to neutralize my wooden surface color a little bit. Soft brush so I don't get lots of marks, even one that's in reasonably good condition for me. That makes a change. Hi Crafty Jacks, thank you. Well, if people wouldn't mind sharing as hard as they can, if Facebook's being a pain, I haven't actually managed to share it to my own page, so there we are. Then maybe if I do that, that might help people to join. Just bear with while I do that. If it will let me share it. There we are, here. And then hopefully this will allow more people to find us if Facebook's not sent out notifications, because it's never helpful when that happens. There's always lots of Facebook lives going on. And it's impossible to keep track of all of them. So you can see that that is a lovely consistency of paint. It's reasonably thin. It goes a good distance. So that's always positive. Now then, it is here somewhere. I know it's here somewhere. Because the eagle eye around you will have noticed just while this is drying, my great big wall panel, which is over underneath the tools, and that has been made using some of the products it's all made with products from this new Wall Decor range. And I think what it shows you is that you can do, as Judy and Boga have done, the Wall Decor abstract effects that are suitable for putting on your wall as a backdrop for whatever else you want to use, or doing that more vintage shabby feel that Vasilis did last week. But equally, you can use these products to make abstract art pieces. So the colours are all Wall Decor colours, and then I've used the structure post for the white, and in real life I can tell that there is a shimmer to lots of the white areas where I've used the pearl white and the gold metallic, which are mixed together just to add that up and add some extra dimension to it. And I'm rather liking it. Is it finished? I've had some suggestions from Vasilis as to how I might alter it. So I've taken pictures of it now, and it might get another layer added to it, because that's the beauty of these products. They will all work together, and you can layer quite happily until you're, until you really like what you have got. Thank you so much for sprinkling, Ari. It's much appreciated. There we are. I wonder who gave me an angry face. I'm assuming it was probably a mistake and that no one is really angry with me. And if someone isn't angry with me, then I apologise. And if someone would like to tell me what they might prefer me to do differently, then I can learn for the next time what might work better for you. There we are. So we now have a sealed piece of of wood. There we are. So that's what it was before. That's the colour it is now, and that is going to help me spread my paints better and move stuff around. So we're going to do a little bit of messing, because why wouldn't we do a little bit of messing? Actually, let me just get rid of that big pot that you can't see onto the floor, and let's move those down there so it's less messy. So this is my loft spackle. Now the loft spackle will add a density to your product, make it more textured. Okay, you can see It's, you know, it's quite solid. It's flopped off as a big lump. It's certainly not drippable, okay, which is good. And I really was whacking that quite hard. That's very common now, Sarah, for Facebook. Good evening, Anna, to do that. I don't know why. Oh, do I want the cracking plaster? No, I don't want the cracking plaster. Not just yet. So let's just put that back down there. So we want some colours from my wonderful selection that I had chosen. And I'm wanting a paler centre so that my next things can lift off. So I'm wanting that beautiful light patina. I'm going to have that grey, moss grey, because it has, I think, a blue undertone. I think the dark patina is possibly too dark or too blue, bluey green, and we've got those. So we're going to start with those 4. And I'm going to do this so that we can see what the difference is between using the paint straight and mixing it with the colours. So let's just pop out some of that. I mean, these colours are beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So that is the Azure Sea. Let's just pop that onto there. This is, let me just pop this over here and then you can see what I'm doing for the moment. Let's pop that there. This is the light patina and it's a beautiful bluey, pale bluey green, and of course you can add white to any of these to make them properly pastel if that's what you want to do. Some of these I haven't opened. There we are. Good evening, Anna. Welcome. I think if so, this is the mossy grey, so that's okay. Let's just pop that over there. Let's just not have a mess on there. It makes photographing things difficult when you've mixed it up and got yuck every which way. So that is the moss grey. And grey is definitely not a colour I think you'll see me use very often. And this is ocean blue. So we've got Azure Sea and ocean blue. We've got light patina. You know, there's lots of colours. So in the range, there's lots of colours that will work together. So let's just pop that onto here. I might need some more loft spackle and less paint, but that's okay. These are gorgeous colours and they are very pigment dense. So you can add, you know, to make these go further, you can add at least 10% water to them, you know, to help. So I know that I'm going to pop my mask sort of here and extend the headdress with some stenciling. So that means I know I want a paler area in the middle of here. So let me just grab a few sponges. So I'm just going to pick up some of that loft spackle and some of that as a light patina. And I know what I said I'd do. I'd show you what happened, what the difference was. So if I just paint that, you can see that it spreads in. Yeah, and it's beautiful, and you can absolutely do that. But if I've picked up some of the blue, but that's okay. So if I do this with the loft spackle mixed in, I have a texture. It's not deep, it's not thick, but I definitely have a texture that's being created by this. And if the more you pounce the paler colours, the more they will actually take on a greyish undertone. I do have an antique white, but I'm not so sure that that's what I want. So it's just giving me very subtle surface texture, and it will feel a little bit like velvet when it's dry. Okay, so let's just pick up some of that and some of that, and let's just work it together. So those are the greys. There we are. And we'll just pounce these together and we'll smooth it out. And you can add water into these mixes quite happily. As you want to. So I'm using a brush because that's giving me my pouncing thing, and it will help give me a slightly more grey undertone from the Love Spackle. But actually I'm using this more for texture at this point, but it's not a granular texture. It's almost like a fabricy feel, if that, you know, rather than anything else. There we are. And we'll mix these in. So I'm not wanting a single colour in amongst this. I am deliberately wanting to blur these and mix them through, but I am intentionally going to keep some of the colours out to the edges. So I've got the darker ones at the edges overall. So we're just going to mix these through, blurring the colours, mixing it in, just building up my texture as I go. There we are. Softening the edges between where the two colours meet. They will dry reasonably quickly, but we are inevitably going to have a bit of drying to do tonight, I'm afraid. And we might add just a bit more of that blue into here. So taking it out, mixing these through, just building an abstract coloured background as we go. That's the whole plan for tonight, is to just have some fun and to use the pieces and get a covering over it. We are going to be adding, we are going to be layering, and that's the whole purpose, isn't it? It's part of what makes something a mixed media activity. There we are, and we're going to need some Love Spackle. So, so used like this, I'm really not having to use masses of the Love Spackle, but I definitely will need some more out. I can tell that I'm going to need more out. And that's fine. So we're just going to have a pretty blurred in background. There we are. And where did I put my Love Spackle? There we are. Let's just take a little bit more of that. I can see I've got paint on the back of that spatula. So let me just grab the back end of a spoon and add a bit more. It's easier to take out and mix on a plate rather than... It's how Pentart set them up, my darling. They've always been set up as events. So I think it relates to Facebook being its normal self and changing the rules around things. But yeah, it doesn't help, does it? So let's just add a bit more of that beautiful light patina. It really is quite a pretty colour. Let's just spread some of that around. And you can see I'm not overly worrying about how my things layer. I'm just wanting a soft background. I tend to work, as most of you will realise, on softer colours backgrounds, because I just feel that it gives me a surface for other things to pop against, if that makes sense. There we are. So let's just pop that into there, and then let's just take some of that dark blue, mix it together, and then we're going to add it around the edges or in some of the areas. We're not going to add it all over. There we are. It's just, you can see that I'm just building, yeah, a really abstract background, and get rid of those lines by just gently tapping them out. I have some, it doesn't matter. I'm really quite liking how these are blending together. And I've got way more paint out than I actually need, but that's okay. So let's just pop that around that edge onto here. So as I say, we're just, and we can come back in. And I might just pick up some of that blue. Lift these in and out. Don't want firm edges, and that's fine. So let's just pick up some of that to blur your edges. Just take your time and go with your layering. Really does help to get rid of the harsh lines around. There we are. Okay. Let's just have a bit more of that dark blue. And I think you can see that the loft spackle really, because it is white and it dries white, really does soften things down, the colours down. But that's great because you can always soften a shade. But if you need to make it darker and you're adding black, then it's much harder to do that, and you lose some of the colour intensity by adding the black into what you're doing. Whereas this way, because we're starting out with such a nice vibrant colour in the first place, then it's just making life very much easier. There we are. So we've got actually quite a moody background forming there, I think. Yes, Sarah, it's absolutely a pain in the... But there we are. Such is life. But we are now, and this has got texture. It's got a little... It almost is like velvet, I have to say. I'm just going to knock out some of that white. Let's just mix in a little bit more of that paler blue. Add in some of that grey. So I've still got texture here. Now you can swirl, but actually the swirling will help get rid of some of your lines, but it's not the overall effect that I'm wanting. It's a bit too grey down there. So so I think I've got quite a nice moody sky. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe you disagree. There we are. Let's just knock out those edges. We're going to add some layers anyway, so hey ho, it won't be such an issue. But easy painting. I've not done anything that's very difficult there in any way, shape or form. I've just added layers of colour with the loft spackle. That area is not going to show. So there we are. Good evening, Liz. Welcome, my darling. So let's... we will need them. Let me put those safely on the floor so we don't waste them. Right. So you could do that effect quite happily on a wall. Yes, it would need to be a much bigger area. You could do it on a much bigger panel, but it's going to give you lots of layers, lots of detail, lots of colour. And as I say, there is a very soft texture to the loft spackle. Loft gives it bounce, gives it body. It also mutes the colour down a little bit. I definitely need these to be dried. Might not be the original intention for the loft spackle, but it definitely, for me, has given me a really cloudy, moody feel. And that's the joy of being able to mix those colours and having multiple colours that all coordinate together. And it's the same with the greens, with the greens, and there's several of those, and the reds, oranges and yellows. So there's lots here that will work together to help. And I do, it has a thickness that I'm going to, she says, I've got a lump of something there. Let's just merge that in. So I just need this now to dry, and then we're going to add some more to it, because why not? Why not indeed? It all is about adding to the different things, isn't it? So we can build. And also, I think it's important that although these pots all say Wall Decor on them, and they can undoubtedly be used for, say, a statement wall paint effect, thinking 1980s paint effects, but upmarket, more different, certainly more elegant than some of the paint effects that we lived through in the 80s, but also thinking more Mediterranean, Arabic, Indian walls, where perhaps you aren't going to have, as we would in the UK, wallpaper, but you want to feature a wall that is is that little bit special. If you've got the time and the skills, then you can create something that's truly unique to you. And there will be lots of examples coming through from Pentart over the next month plus, giving lots and lots of different inspiration. I know my lovely friend Vasilis is doing sort of a 101 on how to use the different products. So last week he did something with the primer and the texture primer, and he also used the loft spackle, but for stenciling rather than anything else when he did his project. So worth a look if you want to see an entirely different style. His style is definitely more vintage, not quite grungy, but definitely more antique, and often has a degree of brown added to it. And we all know I sort of have an aversion to brown. There we are. So they really don't take an awful lot of time to dry. There we are. On a wall, they might take a couple of hours. So by the time you've got to one end, had a cup of tea or coffee, if that's your choice, then you might, oh gee, don't use a rude word, because otherwise that might just be very helpful. So I've clearly had this pot open. It is the cracking paste primer. Do I have a new pot in it? I do, fortunately. But we will get there. So literally all I'm doing is taking a bradawl or a pokey tool and popping it underneath, and it will help separate it out. And what it means is I have, there we are, either cross-strewed or put that lid on when it was still wet. Don't understand why that wasn't working, but hey ho, there we are. It doesn't look too terrible. So this is the cracking plaster primer, and it is a thin liquid. So let's just grab a brush Don't want that size brush. Don't need something that's quite that big. Oh, that will do. And we're just going to add a layer of this around the edges. Don't need masses, don't need a really thick layer, but we're going to, oh, she says, perhaps we don't want to trail it quite the way across there. There we are. Let's just get rid of that trailed area. There we are. Because that wasn't quite what we wanted. So I'm just going to pop it in, feather it in. This is just so that I can remember quite where I've put it, really. There we are. Just break that edge down. So I don't want hard edges. That's not the name of the game tonight. There we are. So that is our cracking paste plaster primer. Right, let us just now make sure that we get this lid on here cleaned down so we don't have it sticking back shut. Really important, particularly if you have whacking great big pots. But I think for your average crafter, to be fair, bear in mind I'm not the average crafter, because with the amount I do, that the 150 ml pot is plenty big enough. Right, let's get that lid on there properly. Excellent. You're dear. A long time since I've had those, Sarah. There we are. Okie dokie. Now, surprisingly, that now needs to dry, because it will go clear. So let's just pop that onto the floor, because that's what's needed. And right, I might have a clean plate, I think, rather than a dirty one. There we are. That works better, doesn't it? Perhaps we'll have another clean plate, and then you can see what we're working on. So I have a mask. This has been cast from the white rapid resin and has been coated in white gesso primer paste rather than anything else. Now then, I clearly don't want a blue face, because that's really not a good option. Right, eeny, meeny, miny, and we might well have a dark cleaner. Right, because there's lots and lots of detail in here, and we could have a textured face if we want, but actually I don't particularly want. So we're not going to mix this with Loft. We're going to just paint it with a brush. There we are. Excuse me while I just reach forward to find something that's vaguely respectable for using. There we are. That one will do. That one will do. So let's just take, so this is a compact powder. Okay. So that seems like a logical colour. It's a bit bright for a skin, but there's a beige if you want, and there's brown. So all racial groups are covered, and of course you could soften this colour quite happily. It's definitely more Mediterranean coloured than perhaps white Caucasian skin, but it's fine. We will. We've got a nice little brush here, so we can just paint this with these. So yes, it's a wall paint, but it doesn't have to be used as a wall paint. Yeah, you can use it for other things. There we are. So let's just paint this little mask. Now I just have to work out where mask and where eye is. That might prove a little bit of a challenge, I think. And am I going to paint in a proper eye? I don't think so. I think that is eye. I think that is eyebrow. There we are. We'll have a bit more of that. There we are. It's a beautiful smooth paint. It goes on lovely. Got a birthday card to do. Let me just pop this one into here. I almost never send cards nowadays. I mean, I was never good at sending cards. In all fairness, it was never really something I've ever really learned. It's a standing joke in my household that I never know the kids' ages. There we are. So let's just pop that into there. We might tackle some of that. There we are. There we are. Let's pop that into there. So that is compact powder, which is a beautiful soft peachy colour. Possibly too dark for a Caucasian skin, or but definitely works for Mediterranean, and it will soften, remember, as it dries. Now then, let's just have some of that blue and some of the dark patina. Remember, I used the light patina on the background. There we are. That will be about 25 more tons of that than I actually need, but that's cool. Good evening, Tina. Welcome, my darling. Thank you for joining us. No worries, Betty. We've all got lives to live. We all have lives to live. Now, let me just give that a wee blast so that I can pick that up safely. Because as we know, this will be about layers. There we are. Good. So let's just see if we've got a slightly bigger brush. We might be there for the cows come home if we don't swap to a slightly bigger brush at this point in the day for the next bit, because it's a slightly bigger area. Where are my nice brushes? There we are, on the floor next to me. Well, that one obviously didn't get washed very well, but hey ho, let's just see if we can sort that out. There we are. Good. So let's just pick up some of that. Some of this blue. We'll mix them two together. We've got more of that blue on the floor, so that's also just fine. There we are. We can always swap to the smaller brush when we want to. There we are. So you can see just how beautifully this is covering There we are. Now I know that I've got lots of different colours here. And we're just going to get a base coat down of these assorted colours of blue. There's more of that dark blue on my palette from before, so I can pick that up. There we are. Let's just pop that bright blue in the middle, and then let's just pop some of this ocean blue around the outside. And I am actively ignoring the fact that it says wall paints, because I think it's important that you don't just box something by its title. Most things have multiple uses, and therefore it makes sense to me to mix and match your products. So I'm going for colours here, and the colours in this range from from Penta are beautiful. They're quite different to their standard colours. They have a brightness to them. They definitely have a brightness to them that's not there in some of my normal go-to colours. But equally, you know, if you want brown vintagey, you know, that's, you can do that. They do have the vintage colours in the range. This mask is one of several in the Masquerade collection from Stamperia that was released last month, so it should still be available. I know some shops have definitely sold out for it. I'm just going to reach down and collect the paints that I've already got out on a different plate, rather than actually get more of that blue out, because I don't really, whilst I get my paint sent to me, I don't really want to be wasting stuff, because the Mr. Customs Excise decides that it'll charge me for my products arriving, which is a pain in the proverbial, but hey, it is what it is. We are going to have to swap in a minute at some stage to a smaller brush, because otherwise we're going to have a pickle, aren't we? I can see it happening before my very eyes. We're not very careful. Okay, so let's just pick up some of that light patina and define this another area of this mask with that light patina. I guess it's going to be mixed in with some of the other colours, because clearly I've not picked up a clean brush, but that's okay. That will work, because it will help blend all of the colours in together for me. There we are. And it will mean that it's not such a stark difference. There we are. Hello, Isabel. Welcome. Sorry, that was a big pause, wasn't it? While I was thinking about what I was about to say. Yeah, sometimes the brain doesn't always function. Here we are. Now then, do I really want to be using this big brush? Answers on a postcard. No. Let's just take the worst off, and then we will swap to a smaller one for the edges. So we don't have too much of a pickle. Actually, we've managed to do that. Don't tempt fate. Ooh, you see, we knew we'd tempt fate. Didn't see me do that, did you? There we are. We'll just get rid of that. There. Cool. Okay, and I can just see an area there that I've missed. Well, there we are. And now it looks fairly one-dimensional, but it won't be. I can promise you. Right. Paint to the floor. Pot to there. Let's just pop that into there. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Right, let's just pick up a bit more paint because we can now, having put that down, we can now see an area that we have absolutely missed. There we are. Because that's the way what happens, isn't it? You need to look at your pieces from multiple directions. So let's just give this a jolly good blast dry. We will be putting the detail back into here, into the piece with some of the other products. Because why not? Why not? Why not? Why not? Because that's why we've got lots of products in different ways. And I don't think there is no short-circuiting some of this. I quite like the idea of painting on a tray because it just makes life easier, I have to say. Get rid of some of the mesh before I put my fingers in it. There we are. Give that a good dry. I'm going to give it a little bit of a varnish in a minute too because it just needs to happen. And if I'm not careful and don't have that glue dry, then what will happen is that when I put the varnish on, I'll smudge paint everywhere and we'll have an awful pickle, won't we? An awful big pickle. There we are. I'm looking on the floor because that's where the cracking paste primer is sitting drying, and it's getting there. It's not quite ready, but that's fine. There we are. Now I'm going to add a layer of varnish to this because I want to be able to lift off on my next layer, and having a layer of varnish on it will help protect it and allow me to lift off more easily than I would if I didn't put a layer of varnish on it. This is a silky shine, so that's quite a nice soft sheen. But any varnish will work. Let's just add this in. We're just going to cover the piece. Yeah. Am I doing this the same way as I make it most of my things? I think the answer on a postcard is absolutely I am. Yeah? Because I'm wanting to show that these products work beautifully. You've seen, I've got a lovely, lovely background. I haven't seen someone use the cracking paste on a live yet. So that fingers crossed that it behaves. No reason to think that it won't, but it's always a bit, and I have used it, so I know that the pots work. So that's always a good starting point. And I know what the instructions. I think it's definitely one where you're probably better off letting it dry and crack on its own. But that's life. We don't necessarily have that luxury on a live. There we are. And I don't want a vintage look tonight. That's not the name of the game. I'm wanting bright, cheerful masquerade. Yeah. Definitely, I'm not thinking that I want any brown. I have got a brown out, but it's not. There we are. So it's rather lovely. Right, let's hopefully we've got that dry enough so we won't then smudge. Then there we are. Now give our face without getting it blue, because I don't really want it blue. We could add some rosy red lips to it, but I don't know that I want to at the moment. There we are. So there we are. There is a layer of varnish, and if you're paranoid, you do that twice. There we are. So that can sit over there. That can move over there. That can go there for the moment. We will need it back out. Let's just give that a nice small brush, a couple wiggle in the pot, reshape the brushes, make sure it's clean, and pop it back in its pot so that it doesn't get ruined. And then let's come back to our background. And I can see there are still some areas that are white, and there's a shine where I've got the cracking paste primer, and that's inherently true of I think all of the the Pentacolor primers. For any of their cracking products, they tend to leave a bit of a sheen, which is quite helpful because head on it tells you where you need to put, where you can put your product. Particularly important if you're not covering whole areas. Let's just get this all this dry. So I've definitely got a cloudy background, and that was absolutely the intention for what we were doing. I totally agree with you, Betty. To me, Masquerade is bright, or Carnival is bright and cheerful. I think they probably, things probably do change with time. As a teenager, I was definitely more drawn to earth tones than I am to cool tones. No question about it. I'm definitely. Whereas nowadays, I quite like the cool tones. I think I might have to clean my my heat gun. It's shedding bits. So okie dokie. So I can see that there are still some areas on there where I have some undried primer, but that's okay. So let us so this is the cracking plaster, and plasters are best applied with a spatula of some description. It doesn't have to be this one. Let's just pop some bits onto there, and then we're going to spread this out. I don't necessarily want a thick layer or dimensional, but I definitely do need some depth for crackles. I might swap in a minute. So just pop that onto there. So you will get a variable degree of crackle depending on how much paste you have, how thick your paste is, and what you've done with it. So hopefully, because we're spreading it out, we're going to get that variation. There we are. Let's just turn you around because it's going to be easier. Can you hear just how textured my background is now? Yeah, I think you can hear just, and that is the loft spackle in that background that you can hear. And I know you're thinking, why did you cover it all up? But actually the crackles, those colours are going to show through. Yeah. Remember, I said I wanted a smoother. A pale background for my piece. There we are. Don't like that straight line, so let's just do that out. Okay. Gently, gently knock out the lines from the edges of the spatula. Tidy up my edges. Pop that in there. And then let's just give that a good clean. Knock that off the edges. Pop that lid back onto there. There we are. Pop that onto there. Right. My suggestion with that is really, it's quite chalky. Clues in the word plaster, isn't it, really? So you probably, if you don't like gunk on your hands, then my suggestion is absolutely that you put a pair of gloves on. There we are. Ooh, let's get the worst of that off, otherwise I'm never going to feel my fingers to do the next bit. So let's just pop that there, pop that there, give that lift, get rid of some of this excess gubbins, stick that on the floor next to the pizza, pray to the crackle gods. I can grab, if it refuses to crackle, well, it won't matter. Going to be quite the effect we're going for, but it won't matter. We've got plans, and let's just give that a bit of a dry. So the reason I've put the canvas, the wood board on the side is to dry, is that it's got a fan heater blowing over a bigger area, so it's not going to get so much of a thermal shock as taking a heat gun directly to the piece, if that makes sense. So I just need the varnish that I've put on there to dry, and that will work quite nicely. There we are. Still feels a bit tacky, so there we are. Let's just let that do its own thing. And if you're paranoid about things, then you actually double varnish. But we're not going to tonight. You might be relieved to hear that that's not the plan for tonight. I might be going a little bit longer than I told my loving husband, but hey ho, so burnt tea for me tonight then will be on the cards, I feel. But hey ho, that's just part of life, isn't it? Here we are. Let's let that cool down, because that will then not feel quite so. And let's just fish in here. Got and that. Oh, she says. Right, so Wall Decor, this is an antique. So it's a matte colour as opposed to a shiny colour. And we're just going to grab a little brush, or a long brush as the case may be, and just give it all a good coat. So you can see that they're thin, they're designed to spread. Once these are dry, they have a permanent surface that on a wall can be washed with a damp cloth. But until they are dry, they are liftable. So let's just grab damp cloth. There we are. Like that, what we don't want. There's lots of detail in this mould. We could add some colour into those eyes. There we are. Or some brown, but we're not going to. There we are. Let's just wipe that back. There we are. So we now have a softer but still clean coloured things. And that is the ordinary Wall Decor. And as I say, those dry matte. Let's shuffle that into there. We've still got a reasonable bit to do. Tell you what, we'll do some hokey pokeying. Oh, she says, trying to fall over. There we are. And I might have been a tad unreasonable. Unfair and not giving myself enough plaster to crack, but we will soon find out. As I say, I think it definitely, this is a plaster that I think is better off drying naturally. But I haven't put a thick layer in, so that's cool. It might just crackle in the bigger areas. In fact, it is beginning to crackle. I can see an area that is. So I suspect, there we are. There it goes. There it goes. The joy. The joy of magic of a heat gun on crackle. Let me hold it up here and let's see if we can get to see This is a much thicker area in this corner. There it goes, there it goes, there it goes. You can see the crackle appearing. So it's very, very fine over here, much bigger where the crackle paste is thicker. These cracks are more irregular and more wavy than the 3D cracking paste. They're less blocky. It's more like a natural weathered wall. There we go. And you can see, I think that these are cracking in the direction almost of where I use my spatula. So I think you have control as to the angles of your cracks. But, yeah. But it really is cracking very, very nicely. There we are. And just pop this on here. We just now need to be patient because we've got some stenciling to do. Won't take a silly amount of time, I don't think, but we just need, when I'm doing my lives, I have a vision as to what I want to achieve and how I want it to look, but I've never actually pre-do my makes nowadays. I used to have to make one to be happy that it was really going to work. But now I'm confident enough that if my brain thinks it's right, then I know that it will work for the finished piece. But I always do have a plan, and when I'm working out what I want to do, I always start with thinking about what my focal point is going to be, and then I build my background from there. Now for this live, because I was asked to show the new products and then do what I wanted with the set of instructions. I didn't actually necessarily have to use the new products, but they're lovely. They really are. So I then thought, I've got those nice masks. So I decided that I could work a nice background. It's got a texture. You can see where I scraped the cracking paste over the background, how it's caught in different areas, and that's because it's caught on the texture from the loft spackle that I put in that background in the first place. You can really see where it's cracking. So these long cracks are definitely along lines where I've scraped. So I'm definitely the predominant crack is in the line that you scrape with your palette knife. I was using actually something called a German scraper, but essentially you could use any form of palette knife to do that, or a scraper. I just wanted to add that in an irregular way, almost creating a frame for the piece. So I say, when I was asked what I wanted to do, my thought process was I wanted to use the mask. I have got it, and I had a stencil, so I knew I could make the mask area bigger. I'm not adding papers today, any paper elements today. And then I wanted to create my background, so that's where my brain focus went. And then I chose my colours because I felt that these would work quite nicely. And as you can see from behind my left shoulder, so you're right, as you're looking at the screen, I've already done a make with the red, the Bordeaux and Ochre paints, and the other colours in there is caused by the mixing of those two paints as I put them in towards the middle. Good evening, Sylvie. Thank you for joining me this evening. We are getting there. We are getting there. So this, as I say, is the cracking face plaster that we've added around the edges for here. And it is cracking in a very, very different way to the 3D, the 3D cracking paste that Pentacolor have previously had in their range. And the thicker you put it on, the bigger your crackles will be. So I put this on in areas that are really quite thin, and that's giving me a much more subtle effect, but rather effective. So let me lift that up and give it a little wriggle. If I shade that, these are quite fine over here. There we are. So it just works. Now I need to go back to my my mold and then work out what I'm going to do. She says. So I'm going to pop that down there. Okay. So that means I now need to take my mask, my stencil. Right, let us grab this. So we waste not, want not. I do have lurky that stick away. I had a stick and spray a while ago. Can I see my stick and spray? Oh, there's my stick and spray. So that's good because we all know I'm hopeless. There we are. So there is that. That's going to say central. That's just did I put that? Oh, really? Yeah, no, I did put it on the right way. Okay, okay. So let's just pop that there. Pop that there. Yay. Yay, yay, yay. So let us just take some of that nice dark azure, ocean blue. And a stencil brush. Don't need much paint on a stencil brush. If you have it loaded, it will seep. The spray will help. That is for certain. There we are. Make sure we've caught the ends of those. There we are. I'm sorry, I'm still not right. I've still got a horrible cold. There we are. Better to add lots of thin layers rather than a thick layer. Okay. Okay. So I now want to flip this. This is the joy of a stencil, isn't it? Is that we can turn them over. So we don't have to have all one direction. Let's just get rid of the excess off there. Give that a dry, because why not? That can be a little bit of a spray. I'm going to say this is the ocean blue. It's all of the blues in this collection. Well, all, to be fair, all of the paint colours in this collection of paints designed for the walls are just stunning. There we are. Has everyone gone to sleep? No. Ugh. There we are. So we're just building up that headdress. Excellent. Let's just add that one into there. I'm glad you like it. I quite like it. Need to go ahead. It is working out. You can see how quickly these paints do dry though, can't you? Right. Let's just get rid of. Now obviously I would give this a better clean. Left to myself. Right. Eeny meeny. So that is going to go onto there. That's that first one. And I'm just going to move it just slightly off. So I'm going up and to the right. Reasonable distance in all fairness. Let me just get a nice palette knife. Let's take that lost spackle that I had out earlier. And pop that onto there. Now, in an ideal world, ladies, you would let this all dry before off. So over exactly, up and to the right. Before you do the next one, okay? Okay. Now the tricky bit. because I need to get that off there. Right, let me just, before we really tempt fate, let's just give this a blast. Thank you, Harry. That's lovely. Give that a bit more of a blast. I can still see it's a little bit wet. There we are. Put that there. Right. Let's just pop that. So this is a technique that Vasilis used the other day. So I've gone up and to the left this way, and I'm going to go up and to the right this way. There we are. Actually, I think I'm going to do that one first, just because. There we are. Oh, that's it. It's going to be easier, I think. You can see it's a nice paste. Okay. Let's just give that a bit of a blast. Because where these are overlapping, if I don't give it a blast, I'm going to just smush it and make a real mess. Particularly in the middle, where I've definitely got it layered. Okay, okay. So let's just pop that into there. Right, let's just give that a blast. It's a really, really nice technique, Harry. Vasilis taught me it. Four years before lockdown, I think, probably. Yeah, I really have known him that long. Yeah. Right, so let us just add in so that is that. Let's just take that into that. Okay, cool. Now then, I just need to get that loft spackle off there. I can chip it off my desk, that's not a problem. And that lidded so it doesn't go off. Okay. Right, now then, I did get out, so that can sit over there. I didn't mind them, but you know, it's a question of keeping the world safe. I think I'd rather we kept the world safe. And I just need a hard brush. And this is the gold, the metallic, the Sergel. We're just going to add let me stand up. So I'm working that properly into the bristles. Okay. Okay, it was going to depend completely on when Teresa Rene put her order in. I'm assured that she, from several sources, that she has. So hopefully it won't be too long. It might be a headache with customs, mightn't it? The usual approach to that. I didn't want to close that, did I? Of course I didn't want to close that. Right, this poor stencil. So I'm just going to line that up, hopefully. Lock that into place. Just add there it is. A little bit of sparkle into there. Not a lot. This poor stencil is being well and truly abused tonight, isn't it? But hey ho, it. There we are. I've no idea when they're going to arrive in the UK either. But I think they will eventually. There we are. There. Okay. I'm just literally using up what I have on my brush. to soften that white. I might use just a little bit more. And you can colour the cracking paste with pigments if you want a pastel colour. Which is always helpful to know, I think, is that you can change the colours. This is just going to frame the piece. I'm catching off the edges at the bottom. There we are. Let's just pop that over there. Oh. So this will have a nice metallic sheen. To go in with the rest of the colours. Let's just corner that. Right, excellent. And let's just grab the heavy body gel. There we are. So that's just under 10. So that just needs to wobble over just a little bit. Yay. There we are. So ladies, there is our make for tonight. I hope that you've enjoyed learning about the importance of priming, the loft spackle, which gives that nice gritty texture but adds volume to those paints so they hold their shape as they colour. The new cracking plaster, which just works beautifully, as you can see, and then the metallic lazur to just add that little bit of shimmer. So if I pick that up, it does absolutely shimmer beautifully, though it's always more difficult to see on camera. So my plan is to do my regular live on Crafting Together with All Brands on Friday, and also my normal live at 3 on Sunday. But I may just be really cheeky and go live at some point tomorrow. So please keep an eye on my social media platforms to see whether I do. I will post a little bit of information so that it's not completely new to you. Thank you so much, Georgina, for those lovely emojis, and clearly loving the piece. Thank you, our Kellis. And it's my pleasure to say how things work. That's my job, but it is my enthusiasm and my joy to share these products with everyone. Thank you very much, Sandy and Anna, for your lovely comments. So, ladies, please be safe. Be kind to each other, because in a world of utter madness, being kind is really probably the most important thing, and the thing we have complete control over. And I hope to see you online soon. Bye.